Hello there, beautiful people. Welcome and welcome back again to the channel. If it's your first time seeing my face, my name is OMUGWO and you're most definitely welcome. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing a couple of things that I regret not doing immediately I moved to the UK. If you don't know, I've been living in the UK for almost 2 years now, and I recently moved in, I don't know if I can say recently at this point, but I recently moved to the UK in December of 2022, and in that period I've learned a few things, I've made a few mistakes, and I wanted to share the mistakes I made with you so that you can avoid those mistakes as much as possible and just save yourself the headache. To be honest, some of them I regret, some of them not so much, but today I'm going to be sharing the ones I regret with you. Now, if that sounds like something that you want to watch, then please keep on watching. If it's your first time seeing my face, my name is OMUGWO. I would love to have you over here. Please do well to subscribe, hit that bell notification button to turn on the notification so that you'd be notified every single time I post a video. Like this video, share this video with everyone who cares to watch it. Leave a comment down below sharing some things that you also regret that you didn't do when you moved into the UK. And without further ado, we're gonna jump right into the video. Pow! Okay, so for me, the first thing I regret not doing when I moved to the UK was driving. I know that I think this one is pretty obvious, but I wish I learned how to drive in Nigeria. I wish I got an international driving license. I wish immediately I got into the UK, I bought a car. I wish I started driving ASAP. The reason is because the UK, as you know, drives on the opposite side from Nigeria, so their roads are kind of flipped, and they also have some traffic rules that I'm not very familiar with, especially since moving from Nigeria. So for example, at a roundabout, they would say, take the third exit from the roundabout, and I don't know, it's just kind of confusing. But if you move into a new country as a fresh immigrant, you can use an international driving license for up to 1 year. That is something I didn't take advantage of, because I would have used my international driving license, I would have familiarized myself with the UK roads, and by the time I was ready to take my driving test, it would have been easy peasy for me. My husband drives, and we didn't prioritize getting a driving license, so we just wasted that opportunity and we couldn't use our international driving license anymore by the time we thought of getting it. And driving tests, I'm sure that anyone who knows about UK driving tests knows that it's really a 50-50 chance. It's quite subjective, to be honest. Sometimes you might meet an examiner who's really good, other times you might meet an examiner who's really nasty, and you end up having to take that driving test multiple times. Like, you would just end up wasting so much time, effort and money to take the driving test. It's also really expensive, so driving tests go anywhere from £35 an hour to £45 an hour. If you don't know, I've made a video talking about how much I earn as a junior doctor in the UK, meaning that you guys know that I don't even earn £35 an hour as a doctor, yet I am paying £35 an hour to learn how to drive. So if you can, I would strongly encourage you to learn how to drive from your home country. When you're coming to the country, please bring an international driving license and practice on the road. Drive for 1 year before you then have to take your UK driving test, by which time you'd be A1 in terms of your driving. So yeah, I hope that makes sense to you. The second thing I regret not doing as a new immigrant to the UK was opening a LISA account. Now, a LISA account simply stands for Lifetime ISA account. An ISA account is a tax-efficient way of investing and saving your money, but the difference between a Lifetime ISA and a regular ISA account is that a LISA account is primarily used for two things. The first thing is you either use it to save for retirement, and the second thing is you can use it to save towards purchasing your first property in the UK. So for every £4,000 that you put in, the government will give you £1,000 bonus, and that money is tax-free. Meaning that for every £4,000 you get £1,000, and at the end of the day you get £5,000. This is a beautiful way to help you save towards getting your first property in the UK, but you must know that it is capped at £450,000 in terms of the type of property you can buy. So if you're aiming to buy a property that's £700,000, then a LISA account is not for you, because the most expensive property you can buy is £450,000. So just think about it. If you have a partner, you and your partner are saving towards buying your first property, and both of you end up putting in your LISA account £8,000 for the tax year, you will get £1,000 extra for every tax year. Then you get £10,000, you and your partner. So in about 3 years of you using the LISA account, you could have gotten £30,000, even though you saved just 3 times 8, £24,000. So you could have gotten £30,000. That's £6,000 jara for what? For no reason. And the best part is that it's tax-free. The only thing you should know is that for a LISA account, there is a penalty for withdrawing the money earlier. So you're basically getting 20% bonus for every savings that you do. But if you want to withdraw, you would pay a penalty. So the penalty you're paying is 25%, meaning that you're going to lose 5% of the value of whatever you've put into that money, into that savings account, into that LISA account. Anyways, the reason I say I regret this is because I didn't start doing a LISA account until this year, basically, and I've been in the UK for a year prior to, so I wasted the last tax year, and I could have gotten an extra £1,000 for me and my partner, so that's £2,000 that I would have gotten, but I didn't know about it early, so I wasted that opportunity, and I don't want you guys to make the same mistake. That's why I'm telling you about this account. Again, if you don't use the money in your LISA account to buy your first property, the only other thing that you can use it to do is retirement. So you can't withdraw this money before, I believe, the age of retirement. And you can only open the LISA account before you turn 40. Once you're 40, you can no longer open a LISA account. So if you're younger than 40, please consider looking into opening a LISA account. And please make sure that whatever money that you're putting into this LISA account is money that you intend to use towards the purchase of your property. Otherwise, you're going to pay a penalty if you want to withdraw it, or you might as well just leave that money there till when you want to retire, basically. So guys, the third thing I regret not doing when I moved into the UK was starting to build a credit history. Now, if you don't know, the UK, especially if you're coming from a country like Nigeria, Ghana, any country in Africa that's not very credit centered, the UK is a country that is very heavily credit centered. So that means that you need a good credit history to be able to do many things. And that ranges from things as simple as getting a SIM card to things even more complex like getting a mortgage. And as a new immigrant, obviously you don't have a credit history. So one thing I regret not doing was starting to build my credit history earlier. I wasted a few months, and that meant that I didn't get the best rates when my husband and I wanted to get a phone. For example, I even wanted to put my husband on my SIM card, but because I didn't have a credit history, I couldn't do that, and of course, if you have a credit history, then they're more inclined to trust you with some things, and they just make some things easier. So what I would suggest that you do is to get a credit builder credit card. So the first thing that I would suggest you do is to log on to Experian and just fill in the information, fill in the data, and try to see if you are going to be available on Experian. Some people don't find themselves on Experian. I, for example, found myself on Experian. There are a bunch of other credit score facilities, but the ones I use are Experian and Credit Ladder. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to talk about Experian. So log on to Experian, fill in your details, and see if Experian even finds you at all or not. If they find you as a new immigrant who doesn't have a credit history, your credit score will be either good or poor. The reason it'd be good is because they don't have any base. It's just like they are giving you a blanket. So it will be good regardless, but that doesn't mean that when you want to make any purchases, you're going to be able to get that purchase. Because it will, even though it says good, there's no credit history, so it's not a reliable piece of information. So even if you try to do any purchases on credit, you'd still be turned away. I hope that makes sense. So when you eventually find yourself on Experian, then apply to get a credit card. Usually, when you apply for a credit card as a new immigrant, they'll start you with very little. So my first credit card was with Capital One, and I started with £200. That was how much my credit limit was, £200. There's also one with Tesco's, there's also one with M&S, there's also one with British Airways. There are many different types of credit cards. Just pick the one you want and start using it. Please, 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 when you're using credit cards, spend responsibly. The thing I would suggest that you do is to spend every month from this credit card and immediately return it back, or set up a direct debit to return everything back at the end of the month. Because as a beginner, whatever your credit card APR is going to be, it's going to be very high. So my credit card with Capital One, for example, the APR was 34.5%, meaning that if I spend £200 for my credit card and I don't return the £200, I will pay a 34.5% interest rate on that £200 that I have borrowed from the credit card. And that's a very fast way to spiral into credit card debt. Because there's also the option to do a minimum payment. So if you spend £200, for example, minimum payments would be around £5 or £10 per month. If you fall into the trap of doing the minimum payments, you would also rack up very, very high interest rates. And you find that at the end of the day, when you're paying back the £200, you're paying an extra 34.5%. And remember that it's also compound interest. So the fact that you didn't pay your £200 back this month, by next month, it is 34.5% of £234. You're going to pay 34.5% of £234. So it's compound interest, and at the end of the year, you'll find that you're in a whole lot of debt. So the best thing I would advise you to do is to get a credit card. Try to keep your spending of that credit card below 50%, because if you find that you're going too close to the edge of your credit card, then the credit card companies and the credit card guys that do credit search, like Experian and all, they would say that you're too heavily reliant on credit and it would make your credit go down. If you guys want an in-depth video of how to build credit score, please let me know, because your girl has excellent credit score. I've hacked it. I didn't know anything about credit cards before I came into this country, but I've hacked it, and I have excellent credit score. So if you guys want to know how to build your credit score, please let me know and I'll do an in-depth tutorial on that. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just telling you that when you get a credit card, then just make sure that you pay the credit card back at the end of the month or immediately after you've done that purchase, so that you will build your credit score well. Alternatively, if you go on Experian, you may not see yourself. Like my husband, for example, didn't see himself, and that's where you go to this credit score building company kind of guys. One that my husband eventually ended up using is called Cash Plus. Now, basically, the way it's going to go is you're going to decide how much you want to be spending per month. So with Cash Plus, for example, you pay them. This is just a random example and I'm using random figures. You may say you want to pay them £60 for the entire duration of the time. So it's 1 year and you say you want to pay them £60. What's going to happen is Cash Plus is going to act as though they borrowed you £60, and every month you will pay them £5 towards a loan repayment. Basically, they didn't borrow you any money, but you're going to pay them £5 every month towards a loan repayment, and that way you will build your credit score, because it basically shows that you are accountable. If you miss the payments, then it will affect your credit score, because it will appear as though you didn't pay them back their money. I hope that makes sense to you. So for example, you would agree that, oh, for this period I want to pay £120. So that means that every month you're going to pay Cash Plus £10 for the next 1 year, and then it means that you have been keeping up with your loan repayments and you are a low risk borrower, basically. I hope that makes sense to you. After you've done it for a couple of times, you would find yourself on Experian and other credit brokers for sure. Like my husband now, for example, found himself on Experian, and even his first credit card that he eventually got with Capital One, it was £800. That was the credit limit, as opposed to me that I was on Experian from the get-go. My own credit limit was £200. I hope that makes sense to you. But over the next couple of months, as you've shown yourself to be a worthy borrower and you're returning the money, then the credit card companies will keep offering you a higher credit card limit after a couple of, and of course you can decide you don't want to take the credit card limit. You can decide whatever you want to do, that's up to you. But yeah, that is definitely one thing that you should do. The reason I say I regret not starting to build my credit card history early was because, again, like I mentioned, if you want to buy things, you're just not going to get the best rates if you don't have a good credit history. That goes to things as simple as mortgage or getting a car or whatever. Even renting. If you want to rent a property and you have bad credit history, it makes renting so difficult because you're going to keep failing referencing, which is why building a credit history is really, really important. Another thing I regret not doing when I moved to the UK was starting to look for rental property early. Because you guys, let me tell you, when I say that there's a cost of living crisis in the UK, best believe that I'm not joking. Everything is super expensive. There's a housing crisis. So there's not many properties. And even when you find properties, especially if you live in London or the peri-London areas, it's so competitive, it's so expensive. If you live in London, it's even worse because sometimes, even though the property is advertised for maybe £1,000, for example, or £2,000, people are bidding higher than the property. So people may decide to pay the landlord £2,200 so that the landlord can choose them over you. Do you understand what I mean? So if you need to look for property, please start early, because the first house that we lived in, I feel like we had to settle for that house, and that's because we were so pressured and we're so pressed for time because we just needed to move into a property ASAP, and we didn't know that finding a property was so difficult, so we didn't start on time. So my best tip and best practices really would be to start at least 1 month before you intend to move. But you can start looking at the property in the market from like 2 to 3 months before you intend to move. But actively going for viewings and all of that, start at least 1 month, because things can switch any which way and you just find out that at the end of the day, the property you want, you didn't actually end up getting it. Do you understand what I mean? Finally, the last but not the least tip that I would give as something I regret not doing when I moved into the UK is standing up for yourself. Because baby, let me tell you, human beings are the same everywhere. When I moved into this country, I initially thought, oh, this is a developed country. They are less likely to want to bamboozle you. They're less likely to want to cheat you. But my dear brethren and my dear brothers and sisters, if you don't stand up for yourself, they are going to bamboozle you and they're going to cheat you. Let me just give you one example. We were looking for a rental property and initially we failed referencing. The reason we failed referencing was because I am a contract staff, meaning that my contract is every year basically. And the estate agent that was helping us with the property said I failed referencing because they were not sure that after my contract I'd be able to afford rent. Now, when you're looking for a property, they'll ask you a bunch of questions ranging from are you in employment? If you're employed, are you full-time employed or are you part-time employed? Are you running a business? Just a bunch of basic questions. And the question they asked us was, are you full-time or part-time employed? That was the question, to which I answered full-time because I do work full-time. I work a minimum of 40 hours a week. Now, when they came back to us saying that I failed referencing, what they said was I failed referencing because I said I was full-time, and after their referencing checks, they found out I wasn't. Initially, I thought that's a bit odd, and for referencing, you're going to pay 1 week of your rent, and our rent at the time, whatever that worked out to be, was about £500. So we had already paid about £500 to these letting agents, and then they came back and said we failed referencing, so that meant the £500 was non-refundable. My dear brethren and sisters, I was like, okay, I thought that was a bit odd because I am indeed full-time, but I just thought maybe I didn't understand what they said. Maybe I'm the one that is at fault. Maybe. So I let it go. Then randomly, I spoke to my uncle, who's a lawyer, and my uncle told me, no, absolutely no, don't let it go. The fact that they said this does not mean that that's what it stands for. So I decided to send them a strong worded email saying that I think I'm being cheated by you because of so and so. And then they sent me an email back responding that we are not doing anything unethical. You actually failed the referencing because you told us that you are full-time and you are not full-time. In my mind, I'm like, I am actually full-time. Your question was, are you full-time? Not, are you contract or are you permanent staff? And if you had asked, are you permanent staff or are you contract? I would have told you I'm contract. But your question was, are you full-time or part-time? Anyways, after the back and forth and me telling them that if they don't refund me my money, I'm going to involve my lawyer. Then they said, oh, we're going to refund you your money. Please send us an account details to do the transfer. And by the very next day, I had my £500 back in my account. The moral lesson of the story, my dear brethren, is stand up for yourself. Don't think, oh, because I'm in abroad, whatever they say is true, or they will not want to cheat me, or the system works. The system works, truly and truly, but it doesn't mean that human beings are not human beings. It's a business at the end of the day, and if they think you don't know your rights, they will bamboozle you. Okay? Anyway, so guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and share this video with everyone who cares to watch it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are there any other things that you wish you started doing earlier as a new immigrant into the UK? Please let me know down in the comment section. Share your own experiences with me. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye guys.